Okay, great. So can somebody from the MDS team confirm that you're hearing me? This is Candice.
Hi, Candice, we're hearing you. Confirming.
Perfect, perfect. All right, Ben and Zachary.
We're here.
Or Ben. Okay, all right. So thanks to everybody for joining this demo. The MDS team would have been brought up to speed to a certain extent on what we're looking at here with IPOL Inventory Pro Online. But before we start, I'd like you guys just to kind of introduce yourselves and then we take it from there. Maybe on both sides. Maybe Nikisha, you could just give us an idea of who's in the room. Maybe not name by name, but you know which departments are represented there. And then if the CIS team could also give us an idea of who's on the call.
Okay, well, for right now, well, I'm Nikisha Booth. I'm responsible for marketing and customer experience. We have Leroy Gordon with us, who is our IT consultant. We also have a member of our warehouse team with us, Bertina Gordon. We'll be having 2 sales representatives with us as well. A representative from the customer service department, and 2 sales managers, and Kurt Booth, who is the general manager. Hello?
Yeah, thanks, Nikisha. Ben or Zachary?
On our side, you have Zachary Ahern, myself. I'm a programmer and developer on Inventory Pro Online and our other systems. And you have Ben Spalding, the owner and operator.
Okay.
Good.
Okay, thanks, Zachary. So, I mean, we can just kick it off. You guys have an outline of kind of the main areas that we wanted to ensure we got to take a look at today. So I'll just allow you to proceed.
Okay. Okay, can you give me some of those specific areas? I know we wanted to look at the Sage interface, and to be honest, that's about all I know about on my end. So,
yeah. So we have the team that Nikisha indicated specifically because everybody wants to have a look at the process from one end to the next, meaning from the point a sales rep takes an order from a customer on location and what happens to that order as it goes through the supply chain, so to speak. And then the specifics that I would have shared with Ben for the areas that we'd like to see. I can bring that back up if you don't have that readily available.
I just forwarded it. I just
Okay.
Okay. So I started with walking through the order process here, and
all right. Sorry. Hi, Candy. This is Kurt. All right.
Hi, Kurt.
So yeah, I just want to make sure I understand correctly. We're going to touch on as much relevant areas as possible. All right. So are we going to walk through, as it suggests, the full end-to-end capabilities from order entry to delivery, and especially the tracking capabilities?
Yes, we'll take a look at all of that. Okay,
and my understanding is that we will simulate a couple of transactions, walking all the way through. Is that correct?
Right. So, yes, so we have our data uploaded in this database in this test environment, so we'll see what happens with our orders and our products.
Okay, and just to be crystal clear, we're going to touch on, when I did mention the tracking capabilities, one is the tracking the deliveries, and 2, tracking different points at the process flow. For example, tracking who picked an order from and who packed an order and that kind of thing.
Right. So we'll take a look at the audit trail for that piece. And then with respect to the delivery piece, you will see what is currently in place for recording an order that leaves the warehouse. And I have spoken with Ben extensively about needing to see an end piece to that process where we can actually capture the customer's proof of delivery. So we'll see as far as what is in the environment as it is now. There are some custom changes that we'll need to make for the full delivery where we capture POD, but we will see how that process flows.
Okay, all right. Well, I guess I'll just hand over to you and let you guys flow.
Okay.
Do you want me to draft to start, or are you good?
I'm good.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so to get started, we'll start with the order entry process. In our system, we have a feature called Quick Order, which allows you to basically select from a list here exactly what parts you would like to order. We'll go with that record because that's all that's there. So from here, we can just put in the number of units we want of any particular item. And it's a quick way for someone to come into the system and enter an order. We do have a couple different views of this screen. So we have the simple view here, which just shows every item in the system. Alternatively, we have some other views that you can select exactly what you want to use and just build the order like that. And the way that this works is you can actually assign different users in the system to different warehouses and to different customer records. So you could have a person log in and it will automatically select, where it should be shipped to, what the destination should be, things like that. So let's put in a little bit of data here. Okay, and you can see here on the right that we have the items here at the top, 4, 3, and 2. And at this point, we can delete the lines if we wanted to delete something. So you can edit this after the fact and just build your order, basically. And once you're ready to complete the order, you click Review. And at this point, you can review it again, and if you need to make any alterations, you can do so. Or you can click Place Order. Was there a question?
Yes. Is this exactly what the sales reps app will look like when they want to place orders on spot?
This is the desktop version of the quick order screen. I can load up the mobile version in a moment. I'll show you both sides of it. Okay, so at this point, we click Place Order, and this will submit an order to the system. Oh, okay, nobody updated this. Give me one moment, and I'll fix that.
Also, if we could take a look at how those images appear for each of those products.
Can do. Give me 1 minute to queue up the update for that, and that'll fix that error message. We just released a number of updates to the mobile and the quick order system this week, so just need to put that on the system.
I'm Candice. Candice.
Yes, Len.
Well, you know the boy, see? Listen,
I do.
the column that says image, a physical picture of the item comes up there.
Yes, he'll show that to us in a minute. That's what I was asking him to give us a look at.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I want to see that as well.
That'd be great. Especially for medical.
Yes. Is that your item ID? Mm-hmm. The item ID.
Okay, and we'll just continue from here over on the other system for a minute. Okay, let me resize this so it's a bit easier to see. Okay, so this is the mobile application. This is what the people in the field on their phones can log into. So same login screen, just a username and a password. Once you log in, if you're an administrator or if you have access to multiple warehouses, you'll get this screen. and you can select your warehouse at that time. From there, you come onto the main menu of mobile. This shows you all the different functionality that we have in the mobile system. What we're looking for today, though, is the quick order functionality.
Okay.
About a minute to load the customer list, of which I don't think they're. I think I need to add a customer. So we don't have any in here yet. We only have the temporary record. So we'll just put in something for testing here.
Zachary.
Yep.
As you add that customer, question, the mobile version, is it running in a browser or is there an app?
The mobile version is running in a web browser, so it can be accessed via any iOS or Android device. You know, we also have a lot of the embedded, you know, the handheld scanners that run Android as well. So it runs straight through the web browser. It can be installed as a pseudo application. So when you open it, you don't get the controls at the top of the screen to, you know, refresh or, you know, do anything like that. Okay, let's refresh now. Okay, so now we have a testing customer in there, and we can actually enter in an order. So at this point, with the quick order system, you can specify delivery date, and you can, you know, put in delivery notes. Those fields are not required by default, though.
When you say, excuse me, there are fields that information can be entered in though.
You can bypass it.
Or you can bypass it.
Yeah.
But it's not a requirement.
Required fields are, you mean you must make a selection.
Okay.
The others are
Because
optional.
there are instances where you need delivery notes.
That's optional.
Yeah. You have to deliver not before 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock. Right. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Okay, at this point, you can select the item number and the number of units you'd like to request on the order. So it's very similar to the other system. You can filter the list down by scanning something in or typing in here. So I don't know specifically what's in here, so we'll see what that gives me. So if we do, we'll do 4,004. And so you can see it filters it down as you type in different parts of the item number. You can also use part of the description. So if I type in first alert, that should filter it down to those as well. And you can get even more specific if you need to. And if the system finds an exact match, it'll automatically fill out the screen for you. So it's an easy, quick way to search the system for different items. You can always just select from the list as well.
Is everything UPC?
Okay. So basically, you're just doing the same thing, putting in different items, putting in the number of units, and clicking save.
Zachary, quick question. This is Ron. Can you hear me? Is there a way to utilize the camera on the phone to scan barcodes?
There is. I don't really have a way to demo it on my laptop here, but we do have an open scanner capability that lets you, it basically pulls up a screen where you can, you know, essentially just take a picture of the barcode. It is a little finicky. It is still in kind of the experimental phase, but that is a part of the application. So if you log into this on your phone, it should give you the option at the bottom of the screen called Open Scanner right about here.
This is actually a live system that you guys can get access to. So you can bring this up on your phone and try it.
And at this point, I've added a few items to the order. So if we go over to the Review tab, it should show all of them. This is, we did just do a bunch of updates this week, so it looks like it's not showing the other two there. I'll have to follow up with that. So you can see here we have a number of units on the screen set to 3. And if we come over here, we can click Save Order. Oh, it's giving me the same error because those transactions aren't there. That would be the problem. Okay, let me just update this real quick. Apologies for that. I thought that update was already applied.
While you're doing that, this is Len. Could you do the demo where you can put in more than one item with more than one unit? Would be able to see the entire order at the review on the review tab? No.
I didn't quite catch all that. But yes, normally the review tab would show you all of the items that you placed an order for.
That's what you just said to me.
You want to see the actual item, more items.
That's right, that's right. I want to see how it's
Okay. That should have fixed it, quote unquote. Worst case, I might have to move us over to another testing system. Okay, start the order, put in a few items. Okay, there we go. Now you can see we have a few items on the review tab here. And these are all the different items we placed the order for. You can see it'll show the item and the description for that item.
So currently this interface, Zachary, does not give pictures. That's just the desktop version that gives photographs, right?
At the moment, yes, we are working to add that functionality into the full mobile system. But currently, the full pictures capability is only available over in IPOL. Here you can see on the left, you can pull up the different pictures. We are still working on that feature. Hoping to have that done within a few weeks here.
Okay.
Okay, and then over on the right, you can click Save, and that will submit the order and make sure the transaction's ready to go. And at this point, we can click Place Order, and that'll finalize the transaction here. At least it should. Of course. Okay. One more quick change.
While you're doing that, the review that showed the items that were entered on that particular order, that screen didn't show the actual units beside each item. It will just come up when you go on the item. You understand the question?
Yeah. So then, so Zachary, he was saying in the review screen, it did not show the quantity ordered for each item right beside it, but there is the pull down, the plus sign, I believe, when you pull it down, it shows you the detail. Is that correct?
Yes. So right here you can see the number of units. So that's how many you place the order for. And you can adjust that you know, at any point here as well. So if you decide to review the order and you need to make a change, you can come to the screen and do so.
Yeah. So then that minus sign to the left, if he clicks it now, it will minimize the order quantity. And if you click the plus, it will open it to show you all the details.
And that's just done to make sure that on a mobile device, we're not using up the entire screen. You know, you can see everything without having to scroll all the time.
Hey, Zachary, this is Jerome again. Quick question. Is there a way to have order history by customer so that if you have a customer that orders 8 items, instead of you having to submit each of the 8 items, you can go back to what they previously ordered and just reorder those items?
We do have that capability in the desktop application. So what this does is it shows you, it allows you to view the cart and all the previously ordered items for that customer. So from here, if this customer had ordered, you know, 10 different items, those would show here at the top, and you could just put in the quantities. Additionally, if you went over to the shipping order module, you could select the shipping order, and we do have a copy functionality on the shipping orders. So shipping order real quick. So you could copy that order record, and you know, you could then fill that order.
Right. And guys, sorry, Zachary, guys, just bear in mind that we have the option to do sort of breakout sessions after today if there are specific areas that we want to dig a little further into. The team at CISS is very open to us seeing as much as we need to. But again, the test environment is also available to us to use whenever we want to.
All right, I have a question. Why would we use the desktop application at all for what we want here?
Well, the desktop application is the management system, basically. So you know, at the end of the day, the people in the field would primarily be using this. But if you need to run any reports, if you need to run any, you know, more intensive operations, those are meant to be run through our main system here, which has all of the reports, has all of the, you know, additional features in it. So we have a full reporting engine in here that you can use to, you know, get all the details on every order, every transaction, basically.
All right. So wouldn't I be? Doesn't that? So would I have the option? Does it interface in such a way where I could do all of that through my Sage screen instead of through here?
Could you say that again? Your what screen?
Sage 300.
Yes.
I believe the plan is to push the transactions across. So, you know, yeah, you should be able to see most of that information there. However, we don't pass all of the inventory activity and all of the history 100% over to the accounting interfaces normally. So, if you wanted to find out exactly which user performed an operation, you know, you'd need to come back into our system here to identify that.
So the idea is that this is like the management console, where any activity that takes place on the mobile devices, this is where you need to come to get all that activity. All right, but the intention is once you create the order on the system, it will be pushed into Sage. And there will be a two-way communication as well, I presume, Zachary, in that whenever the order is converted at various stages, it converts to a shipment and then it converts to an invoice. That information will be sent back into the management console, so you know the sales rep, for example, can get a status update on the order that was submitted.
Generally, our interfaces are one-way interfaces. We do occasionally do two-way interfaces. Our existing Sage 50 interface is primarily one-way, but if we need to do some enhancements there, or if we need to, you know, customize that in for your project, we can do so.
Okay, so just to go back, let me understand this process flow. Our sales rep is in the field with a mobile device, okay? So they'll be seeing this mobile screen. Once they send through an order that comes in office, where does that go? Does that go to the customer service rep in office? And if it does, what screen are they looking at? Are they looking at a Sage 300 screen on their desktop, or are they looking at an IPOL screen on their desktop?
Generally, the way we normally do it is they would be looking at the IPOL screen. So most of the direct you know, day-to-day operations in our systems, as far as inventory control and as far as you know, managing orders and such, in most of our interfaces happen through our system right here. So that would happen on the shipping order screen, and this is a list of all the current orders that I'm looking at right now. So this would be where they would come to see what is currently outstanding. Additionally, we do have email alerts and other ways of triggering and notifying, you know, people that actions have occurred. So yeah, essentially they would come into this screen, they'd be able to see the order and the line items, if I'd added any to these. And they'd be able to make any changes they needed to. So if maybe they weren't able to fulfill this order completely, they can generate a back order. You know, they can alter it if they need to, you know, if any changes come back down the line later at a later point in time. You know, you can also fill out additional attributes here. We do have, like I said, we do have some basic post back. Like we will, when we're interfacing with Sage, we copy all this information over as far as, you know, what the order number is, the different details and the addresses, and, you know, some sales rep information and other things like that are copied over to the Sage program. And then essentially we just update the Sage program as the status, you know, progresses in our system. So in our system, once you try to pack the order or once you try to issue the order out of the system, you know, then we update Sage with that information. You know, it essentially just walks through the process, and most of the process generally occurs in our program. Our program does support...
let me ask this question.
Go ahead.
As a follow-up, in terms of you writing back information to Sage, there's a certain logic that this version of Sage has to conform to in terms of being able to maintain the data integrity. So what typically happens when there is a third-party product interfacing with Sage 300 is that rather than writing directly to fields for a transaction, or master records are fine, but what they tend to do is to use what we call the SDK, the software development kit, where once you update Sage using that particular methodology, the data integrity is maintained. So when you're writing back into Sage, for example, you say, as the status of the transaction changes from an order to a shipment to an invoice, are you planning on writing back all those different stages of the transaction change into Sage 300? Is that what you're planning on doing for the interface?
Well, I don't know what my plan is yet because, frankly, we have a Sage 50 interface. So, I'd have to redevelop a Sage 300 interface. So, for this project, we need to develop a Sage 300 interface as part of it. So a lot of those questions and a lot of that, finer detail is something I will be figuring out, down the road as we get into implementation.
Okay.
But Zachary, I guess my question then is, if those, as Mr. Garner just said, as long as this sales rep can go to IPOL, it's IPOL? IPOL. And get that information to know that the order has been picked or it has been packed, and I get the various status of the order at a particular time. It shouldn't have to go back to stage, right?
That's the point that Leroy is saying. That does the system allow for updates?
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, even if it doesn't, as long as at some point it goes back to Sage to let you know that it is ready for invoice, but does it have to update Sage at every particular point?
No, as soon as the status of the transaction changes, it changes from an order to a shipment to an invoice, you need to know that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, as that happens in Inventory Pro Online, currently what we do is we update Sage at the appropriate time. So, if we issue this order out, that would trigger Sage to change it from from an open transaction to an invoice transaction. In Sage 50, there is not really a shipment phase, so to speak, so we generally don't update that information. So that would be an additional phase we'd have to work with in Sage 300.
Okay.
Zachary, from a hardware standpoint, how quickly does this information get updated through cellular band, or does it have to be network?
Generally, the interface we run currently, it runs every 2 minutes, and it will copy over any transactions that have occurred in the past 2 minutes. The interface can be run in a batch mode, so if you wanted to, you could, at least with our current interface, you could just queue it up once a day. Basically, as transactions happen in our system, we mark them with a flag, and when we post that transaction back over to Sage, we just unmark that flag. So it means that if the interface is ever down for any period of time, we can just pick up where we left off to make sure that all transactions are appropriately handled.
Is there a way for a sales rep to write an order and save it without submitting it?
Possibly. I mean, it depends on if we do a two-way interface or not. If we do a two-way interface, we'd be able to pull that information back. If we do a one-way interface, all the order entry would have to occur in Inventory Pro, at least, to create the order. And then from there, you could modify it further in Sage 50 if you wanted to. But
I heard another question here. Are there pick and slips? Are we able to generate pick and slips as well from the system?
What was the answer to your question?
I didn't quite catch all that.
I think we should just run through the process so we can see what happens at each stage. So for example, they asked about picking slips just now, Zachary, but I think once we get to that stage where the order is packed, we can see what happens there, correct?
Sure. Yeah, I will. Let me just run through a full order real quick, and then we'll save some questions for the end there, okay? Okay, load that back. Okay, so I'll just put a few random items on an order here.
Did we lose audio?
Hello?
Oh, sorry. Maybe one
Okay,
second.
Oh, okay.
just checking.
Just had to type something in quick. Oh, my computer's a little locked up here. Okay, so now we will click Save here and place this order. It should run through this time.
So if I hit save but did not hit place order, what would happen?
So essentially, the system will cache the transaction to the server. If you do ever lose connectivity or if you ever log out, your last order will be saved on the server until you complete it.
So if I saved it on the server and then went on to a different account and wrote another order and placed that order, would that previous order be still on the system?
Yes, the orders are unique to each user account and customer. So you can actually have multiple open orders for multiple customers at a time if you wanted to.
Is there a time frame associated with that before the system purges all saved orders?
Nope, it'll keep them indefinitely. The transactions are quite small, so there's no reason to purge them.
So I would imagine then the previous question that I asked, whether you could save an order, you could do that utilizing that methodology without submitting it, correct?
Yes. So if you wanted to save an order for later and come back to it the next day, or if you needed to switch orders halfway through something, you could do so.
So that's like saving an email in draft.
Yeah, somewhat.
Is there any reconciliation that takes place with the system at the end of the day or anything, just to make sure all orders that are sent in from a mobile standpoint is then reconciled with orders that are in the warehouse just as a safe check mechanism?
We could write a report to do so and give you an alert for that. We do have email alert systems that we can run, at any interval as a scheduled task. So if you wanted an alert of orders that were not completed every night, that is something that we could do.
Yeah, I would love that.
Yeah, let's see that.
And unfortunately, it looks like this control is not working. I'll have to take another pass at updating this a bit. So I'll run through the entire process on the desktop here, and I'll have to review your site later in the day to see what's going on the mobile end there. But we'll just walk through the process here. Okay, so it's generated a fresh order here, and we'll just put a few line items on it.
Is that from our side or their side?
This is
On their side.
Oh.
Okay, so at this point, we have an order open in the system. At this point, this order can be issued out if it's ready to be completed. We do also have optional approval steps. So if you didn't want somebody to be able to enter an order and immediately, complete it, that is something that we can turn on or off. But for now, I'll just click Start Issue on this. And this will move us to the next step of the process, which is on the Issue Stock screen here, we can choose the exact location we'd like to pull the stock from. So you can see we have a lot of the stock in this test system in the dock location already. So if you had multiple locations, you can use the Load All command at the top to automatically search and choose stock based on first in, first out. And we have other rules for that as well. So if you wanted to use last in, first out, or other options, it can be configured in different ways.
Yeah, I think that was important for you guys, correct? To be able to pull stock in a certain sequence.
Just expired.
Yeah, so some of the items are what we call lot tracked. So you'd want the first to expire to be the first to be sold.
Okay. We do support expiration dates in the system, so we just have to make a tweak there to prefer, expiring stock before, the first expiring stock first. Okay, and at this point we can complete this transaction, so we just click Finish Issue. And that will move the shipping order into a packed status. I just turned that on in the system actually after one of the discussions earlier. So the packed status means that the order is ready to leave. It is optional, you don't have to necessarily use that, but it sounded like something that you may be interested in using. So with the packed status, that essentially moves it so that that stock cannot be consumed by anybody else, but the order is still in the system waiting to be fully, sent out. So if we go back over to the shipping order.
I understand that, just let me see if I understand it. What you're saying is that in placing the order, you can actually reserve the quantity?
Yes. So with the option I just turned on, you can reserve the quantity for that order. That way it cannot be consumed by another order.
So when you reserve quantity, are you also reserving lots?
It's reserving the exact stock record from the system. So
oh, just the stock.
Whichever location and whichever serial number or whichever lot number we chose at that point, it will reserve the requested number from that.
Okay. Well, I'm happy to say that's optional because at the order level, you wouldn't want to do that at the order level.
Okay. It is an optional feature. It just based on the discussion earlier, it sounded like it may be something you're interested in.
Okay.
I'll turn that off quick. So the normal process there, I just toggled that feature off real quick. At the issue stock screen, that would be when the item actually leaves the system then. So let's enter something else real quick here.
Let's say copy image. Let's select copy image. Yeah. Okay.
So this order just was issued straight out of the system here. So shipping order 1 is now complete. So if we come back over here, we can see that it'll be showing up as completed. All the items are out of the system. We do have features such as package tracking. So you can see we automatically generated one package here for this. We do have other options on the mobile device to generate a specific number of packages or things like that. I believe there was a request for some customization possibly for the package tracking the exact delivery to the customer. That is something additional that we can do there. But at this point, this order is completed, and it's ready to be sent over to Sage, basically.
So how do we see? Well, okay, I guess you have another step to go, but how do we see the activity that took place on those items in that order?
So to see the activity, if we jump over to the inventory reports, we have the audit trail report, which will show exactly which order the stock was sent out to. So you can see here we have the issue stock transaction there. And additionally, we have negative adjustment reports as well. If you just want to see, what was sent out of the system. So here it'll show the order reference, exactly where it was issued out to, what customer, and on the right side you can see exactly which user performed the action.
Okay, could we take a look again at the audit report, please?
Sure. These two reports are very similar. This one shows the exact description and details here with the timestamp. The other one shows the aggregate with some of the information on the customer included.
So if I wanted to see who put the order in and who picked the order from the shelves, can you just show us what we're looking at here?
Sure. So on this screen, we're looking at who processed the order and shipped it. Okay. So this would be who actually took it off the shelf and who sent it out of the system. And that would be CIS admin. That's our user account for the super user, basically. But that could also show, for example, you can see here we have mobile user. That's another one of our testing accounts. So you can see mobile user performed a lot of these receive stock operations to populate the system the other day. And yeah, so this is how you see who performed the action. If you want to see who specifically created the order, if we jump back over to shipping orders, I believe we have a report that shows that. If not, we can always create one that shows
so that, exactly. In essence, your warehouse team would have a device that as they pick the order, then of course the system get updated as to who's doing the picking, right?
Yes. So the user accounts are also tracked on the mobile device of who performs the operation.
Okay.
So is it a device for each pickup? Or is it just one device that all of them use?
It depends on your operation, but you could use multiple devices. Each person can be set up with their own user account. So yeah, it really depends on your process flow of how you want to do that. Some clients put a computer at like their loading dock, and they'll just have people use that single station. Other clients will have people going throughout the warehouse with mobile devices and processing the order as they go.
Right, but I guess the important thing is that each person who accesses the system will have a unique login and password.
Yeah. So let's say they share a device in the warehouse. For login, will they need to log out and log in each time, or would the screen auto refresh after not used for 30 seconds or stuff like that? How does that part work?
So the timeouts are configurable in mobile. I believe the default is 2 hours. We do have offline capability though, and you can resume a transaction most of the time if you go offline. It's not 100% guaranteed. It really depends on the amount of time. If it's been, like 8 hours, might not be there, but if it's been 30 minutes, it should be there. But essentially, yeah, so you can go offline, you can continue working. The system will leave you logged in for about 2 hours.
Oh no, I'm not concerned about that part of it. What I'm concerned about, let's say I just finished an order, I put the device down, another user came and took the device, but I was the last one who logged onto the device. So any transaction that occurred,
activity, yeah, it would occur under the original user. They'd still be logged in.
So they would need to log out and log in.
We have done features for clients in the past where once orders are completed, we automatically log the user out. That might be something you might be interested in there. I believe we did that for the scanner issue module here for another client. So essentially what this allowed them to do was they would come in and just scan whatever items the particular user needed to consume and a badge ID, and it would associate that to the appropriate account and log them out of the system.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
So yeah, at this point, the order was completed here, and yeah, I am looking at these different reports. I don't see one that shows the exact person who created the order, so we might need to add another view on there for you, but that's easy enough to do.
Zachary, the packing phase of an order is done by 2 individuals currently. So would there be an option to have both individuals associated with the one order, correct?
It depends. If they're both using their own device and each packing a part of the order and processing a part of the order, then it should be tracked properly. If they're both doing it on the same device at the same time, it would only track one of the users. We might be able to give you some sort of option that allows you to select the second user to associate or something, but that would get a little confusing and messy.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Zachary, I'd love to see what features are available on the mobile site. I know you're having a bit of a challenge right now, but is there any reporting that our sales team can access? For example, on the customer order history or customer AR status, anything like that that can be accessed or maybe added if it's not an option right now?
Currently, we have some basic reporting here, so you can see, previous orders. We do have a search orders feature where you can select the specific customer and search based on that customer. So you can look up old orders and look up the old information on that order, such as whatever items were ordered, quantities, amounts, things like that. So we do have some basic information you can get from here. However, we don't have the full reporting capability of the desktop application. So we can write some basic reports, and we have a couple here at the bottom. So we do have a basic audit trail that you can access.
What?
And things like that. So.
Yeah, Zachary, there's a question I have. The whole platform of putting through orders would have to be on the basis that the AR on the customer information is available. Is it possible?
Only the information that the user is authorized to access is available. So right now I'm logged in with a super administrator account, so I can see everything here, but we do have a permissions utility tied into this. So for example, you can control if somebody has access to see, pretty much any of these order modules, if they have access to the customer list, etc. So if you wanted to set up your warehouse users so they weren't able to see customer information, you could do so.
No, not the warehouse users, the salespersons. What the concern is that for them to put you on order, the accounts, the customers' account status, account receivable status has to be visible. And the question I'm asking, does the interface that the reps will have, will they be able to view that information by customer? And outstanding invoices or what?
We do have a screen where you can view the customer information. So if you utilize the, actually I don't see it on this list here, but we do have a customer status field, so that could be added to this. We could also change it if you wanted to see that alongside the customer name here. If you wanted to see their current status, we could customize it, put that there. Did we lose someone?
No, I think we're here. Now, in terms of controls though, if let's say you don't have that in place right now, are there controls that we can turn on to prevent an order from being placed in the event a customer's account is delinquent?
Yes, you could discontinue that customer, which would immediately remove it from being shown on this list. Other than that, I don't remember what other filters we have on there, but we could always add an additional filter. So, for example, we have the. Oh, hello.
Yeah. Zachary, in that vein of thought, is there a way, for whatever reason, management decided to flag an account to do so?
Yes, that's what Candace just brought up while you were offline. So we do have a field in here. I don't remember specifically what it's called, but it allows you to set a status for the customer. So probation, approved, or pending. I believe there's a few different statuses to that. So yes, we do have some features like that. You can also discontinue a customer record, which will prevent it from showing up in any of the system lists.
Is there a way to limit
to block
size?
Go ahead.
Is there a way to limit the order size based on maybe a credit line?
We have that capability for some quick order limiting in the desktop side of the application. We don't currently have any of that in the mobile side of the application.
I'm just thinking about other solution that can be.
You can utilize the back office in order to create those things. When the orders come in, you may not want to have them go directly to the warehouse or picking. There may be some reconciliation point between that.
You could use our the order approval module that we have. So that would prevent someone from processing an order until someone's approved it. So that would let the back office control, if there's a very large order that comes in or something like that.
Status update format as well.
Yeah, I think those.
Anything else? Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, I think those breakout sessions would be very valuable because there are clearly, specific questions per department or per function that would allow us to build our wish list, and then we see if, from the big pictures, those are all things that you guys can offer.
Yeah. When you say this good stuff, I'm actually changing that tracking capability. Well, tracking as it relates to external. Candice. Candice?
I'm sorry.
Yes, I'm here, Leroy.
By customer?
Leroy,
so one other thing Kurt was asking, he wants to see I don't know if we have covered it, but not necessarily was able to pinpoint it exactly. The tracking capability. So what we covered first was tracking the transaction from order to packing to shipping. Is that what that part covered already?
Yes, I believe so. Yeah, go ahead, Zachary.
So we do have a package tracking module that we're currently working on. There's a few different modes to this. The current mode that it's set up in by default is to track deliveries to different employees of your company. But we have another mode of this that we're currently working on that allows you to track deliveries to the customer and take a signature upon delivery. So that is something else that is currently in the works. It's not 100% complete though. This works similarly to the other screens where you just select your different fields, scan the tracking number, things like that. And once you're complete with this process, you just click save, and then it pops up on the review screen, and you can submit it with the signature.
So again, let's say we're interfaced with any one of the carriers. We're interfaced with Federal Express, DHL, whoever, or the local carrier. The idea, the system here would just basically capture the tracking number. But
yeah,
if you want to
direct, this is the direct delivery. So if you're running your own deliveries or things like that, this is basically the utility that would mimic what UPS or FedEx or the tracker would do with their signatures, when they drop off the package. So, in terms of the integration, we do have some old integrations with, I believe, FedEx and UPS WorldShip. But, again, that is something that winds up getting customized on a, per system basis. Different customers want different information, want, orders pre-created, things like that. So.
Okay, so on this end, what happens is there are two types of delivery. You have the in-house person who goes out to do a delivery, as well as you have carriers, local carriers that also pick up a package and do the delivery. So let's look at the latter first. The local carrier picks up the delivery, the package to be delivered. What will happen is your system would basically just capture that tracking number, because the tracking of the package therefore now moves over onto the carrier's portal, correct?
Yes. So essentially, we just capture the tracking number, and we basically just transfer that, and say that this is moved to the next status. If you're tracking directly from the system, unfortunately, we really don't have much data in your test system, but you can scan in a tracking number, and it will automatically match up with what's in the system here. So let me see if we have any there. Unfortunately, I don't know if that's actually going to match up 100% because we're in the wrong mode here. But then at that point, you can select, the customer would automatically be selected, or you can specify it, and essentially just fill out these forms as needed. As I said, there's two different modes to this, so I'd have to log into the server and change it on the back end into the new experimental mode we're working on to track the deliveries to the clients.
Okay. All right.
But Zachary, just so I understand, or just so we understand, your integrations that you have done with FedEx and UPS in the past, would those facilitate like a straight click through? So let's say the tracking number appears in IPOL. Is there a functionality with those integrations where there was a click through to actually track the status, or some other way through IPOL to track?
To be honest, I don't know. I'm not the primary developer on those systems, so not really sure 100% on the exact operation of them.
Okay, so if we want...
The question Is it about like a hyperlink where you click the tracking number and it automatically jumps over to the portal to give you information on the tracking, what's happening?
Yeah, either that or whether the system itself can pull tracking updates through an API or something.
Okay, I got
That's
it.
the part I'm not 100% sure on is the pulling or the data push over to the FedEx and UPS systems. But we do support, if you put in a tracking number here, we do support linking to the other system.
Okay.
Through here.
Can I jump in for a second? The Navy system we did is just like you said, Candace. We send over the order information and they send back the tracking number. And then we just link, we just save the tracking number in the field that Zach is on now. So.
Okay. And so we could click through and I guess be taken to the tracking details.
Correct.
On that.
On the provider portal, because you don't necessarily need to reinvent all that.
No, right.
It just saves the tracking number, and then you can email it out if you want to your customers. But it's just a link to their portal, and then if you want to track it, it drops you over to them.
Right. Correct.
All yours, Zuck.
Is there still a great area for you, Kurt, in terms of the internal tracking? Because for the external tracking, what was just explained is that they will store the tracking number, and that is for your external provider of the service. Store the tracking number, you're able to do a hyperlink back to the details of it. It's in just receive let's say, or sorting location. It's now on truck. That kind of information. That's usually what you get from a provider. Internally, if you have your
that's
driver,
a subscription.
Subscription?
I'm talking about the fees, the cost.
Oh, I'm not sure about that one.
All right.
But for your internal now, let's say one of your driver decided that they're going to deliver the good. Typically what happens is when they take it to the customer, then they capture some information to say it's been delivered, who signed for the package and stuff like that, which writes back into IPOL. Okay. Did I articulate that exactly?
Yeah, I think that's pretty much how it normally works there.
Okay.
Again, like I said, I haven't been 100% up to date on all of our tracking stuff, so it sounds right off the top of my head, but
All right. I couldn't leave here without asking this though. In terms of internal tracking, we'd like to track, for example, who picked an order, who packed an order in the warehouse. Right. Yeah. What time the order left? That kind of a thing. How is that applied? How is that done? Or can I only have that information via audit trail?
The information is pretty much logged to the audit trail as the person performs the action. As I said, we do have the order packing module. So once that's enabled, it adds an additional step between when it's picked and when it's actually shipped out. So that might be something to turn on if you wanted to track if the person who picked it was separate from the person who packed it, or things like that, or the person who sent it out. But yeah, essentially it just captures and it logs it to the audit trail when someone performs one of those operations.
Tell me about that module. From a process flow standpoint, how do you track?
Essentially, it's the same process flow to enter the orders in. The only difference is, and this can be done on the mobile devices here. Let me switch over to another site where I know it's working. Mobile, actually. Okay, so if I jump in here, and we can go to the order packing module. So from here, and I'll just quick run the test method here so we don't have to try to figure anything out. Okay, so on this screen, essentially, you can scan an order number. And once you've scanned an order number, it'll automatically take you to the next screen here. Yeah, figure that out. Okay, glitched it. Okay, so once you scan an order number, so we have shipping order 25 in our test system here. What that will do is it'll pull up a list of what's meant to be picked for that order. So you can see here we have 7 of 00251, and we need 5 of 259 random test data there. So that pulls up a list, and that tells you what you need to fulfill. So then here on the create screen, you can select that item. This list should be filtered down, but again, we've been running a lot of updates this week, so kind of in progress. So at this point, you can select the exact item number. I believe that was E1. Yep. And then you can select the location to pull from, and you can specify the number of units. And then, as you do this, it will start packing the order, essentially. So now we have 2 items associated with this order. Unfortunately, we don't have the full stock available to complete this. But as you walk it through, you basically fill out the order here based on what's required, and then you can click the release button and specify a number of packages it's been packed into. And at this point, that's sent to the server, and that moves the stock into the packed status where it's unavailable to be used. And then at that point, a user can come in and then consume that stock from the desktop application here. So yeah, it's a slightly different process. Essentially what happens is a little ship button would appear, right here, or return button. So you can either ship it and complete it, or click return to undo the packing operation. So it is a slightly different process flow, but we have these different options and these different features because every client has a slightly different workflow that they want to achieve. So if you can come up with exactly how you want it to work, we can turn on or on the different options in our system to kind of tailor that to your use case.
Zachary, question. So this system doesn't actually interface with the products, okay? So if I have a packer that has 15 Resolo 50 that is to be packed, right? The system would show them on the handheld device 15 and the pack 14, for instance. But they check that they pack 15. No.
Yeah, so essentially, the way that it works is once an order has been packed, no other user can pack it. The packing, it's very basic. It doesn't track a lot of information. It just tracks how many packages it was put into. It could be changed or optimized beyond that. Oh, looks like they dropped out again.
Are you guys there?
We're still here. It looks like the connection dropped again.
Okay. Are you back, Nikki Show?
Yes, we're here.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to automate to get rid of some human elements, right? That's the plan, but I don't see how the system really helps me eliminate error. If the system can interface with the actual products, so I can know at some point if the right thing, I'm still relying on the human element.
That's an inventory management system. That is like what Karen saws or what we saw. Right.
Anywhere to
right. So I can pick up the item, there's a message that. That's not what this is about.
Well, we should actually ask the questions, guys. If there's something specific, a specific feature that you might be interested in seeing, based on what you've seen elsewhere, let's ask specifically. What's available.
I think we've gotten quite
extensive.
Yeah, a roundup, in terms of information, generally speaking. I have 1 or 2 questions before we wrap up. I think Andre, one of our sales rep, has a particular question.
Yes, I would like to find out if the system, if an item is out of stock and then with a customer and they said, hey, what's happening with this item? Would I be able to go on the system and see if an order was placed and the expected ETA?
No, we're not going to get that.
We have the delivery date field, which can be used to, put in the ETA by the person entering the order. That field is available on the order header. We can always add it to the primary report, though, if you didn't see that front center. We've also done for clients in the past, at the top of the screen here, we've changed the sorting so that orders that have an earlier, delivery date, or they have a higher priority, or some other status like that, will appear at the top of the list. So they're processed, in the order that they're needed.
I have another question. So once the sales rep places the order, the sales rep now has the option to put in detailed notes about what should be happening. Does that order go directly to the warehouse now? I don't know why it would have to stop in.
Yes, in our default system, it would go directly to the warehouse. So that would appear right here on the list, and it would be available for packing. Alternatively, like I mentioned earlier, if you wanted to turn on the approvals process, you could do that, and then it wouldn't be able to be packed right away. It wouldn't go straight to the warehouse, basically.
In terms of
picking slip. In terms of picking slip, yeah, no, nothing was. That would be ideal, but not really.
I would recommend having an interface between an approval point.
Yes.
Just for review purposes.
Because there may be certain scenarios where you have limited inventory and there's a better customer that you want to service, and you don't want people pulling that inventory out, so you'd want to approve when the day comes in who gets what.
But realize it's just the picking, the invoice would still come back to customer care. Customer care would still have to be the
and you don't want to have someone interface in the system and manualize that process versus just letting the computer system run.
Zachary, if you don't mind, could you just go back to that audit trail for me? So I want you to just, there's a lot of information on the screen. So if we could just look at one particular item that was picked, just show us the trail. So the first item ID that's there.
Okay, so I just basically put in the item ID and did a search by that item. So you can see here, there's only 2 transactions regarding that item.
Okay.
At the bottom, we have the received transaction, which is when we initialized the system the other day. And that was for 100 units, and that was put into the dock location.
Okay.
Over here, this is the exact date, time, and information. And going to the right, that's just who performed it and what adjustment it was done under. So our system allows for different adjustment codes. By default, we have shipping order, consumption, physical inventory, and a variety of other codes to the basic operations. But you can always add additional ones if you need to track special, activities for accounting or anything like that.
Okay.
And then the top transaction here was the one we did earlier for the shipping order. So this was two units were issued out of the system for shipping order number 1, and the customer was the testing customer there. And over here, it just says the exact date, time, and again, the other details and the reference.
So that transaction type issued, does that happen when the order is packed? When does that status?
That transaction there happened when it was issued out of the system, fully consumed. If you turn on packing, there's an additional transaction that will happen here. And appear in the log.
So I guess my question is, how many of the steps in the process does this report allow us to see? So we see received when we add the inventory to the stock. We see issued when the item is sent out for delivery. What in between can we also see? You just mentioned.
This will show anything from a receive stock, an issue stock, move stock. It also tracks leasing, purchase order transactions, pretty much any stock activity in the system. As far as moving from one state to another or moving locations or anything like that. And
in each case, we will see which user is driving or has driven that step.
Yes.
Okay. I don't know if that was 100% clear to everybody before. I don't know if it's a little clearer now.
It also tracks transit slips and other things like that. Again, pretty much any stock transaction.
Okay.
That audit trail, can it be broken down into reports? So if I want to know how many orders were picked by each person, how many orders were packed by each person, what the average delivery time out for a particular region is, Are those options available if the information is inputted based on the order?
Our system has our system has a lot of different reporting methods. So here at the top we have the basic search box, which you can use to search on any field. And additionally, we have an entire filters module here, which allows you to add different filters for different fields and basically, build yourself a report that shows exactly what you're looking for. So I could say, reference contains, shipping order, and if I click save on that, and we go back to the report, it'll only show shipping order type transaction. And you can build up different filters to generate, different sub-reports to figure out exactly who performed what operations or things like that. And the filters are unique to each person logging into the system.
Okay.
And that can be done with any report on the list here. I believe we have about 150 or so turned on by default.
And so, sorry, forgive me if this is a bit redundant. I just want to make sure I have it proper. As it relates to the picking, it would be possibly one device where each person that currently the manual system we use is each picker picks 3-4 orders or whatever, and they go to a book and they manually write in what they have picked. They write in the customer, the time they received the order to pick, and the time that the order was finished picking, and they write in their name. So would it just be some type of a device that would allow them to have a unique ID identifier that they could just put in their ID and then that information and then go?
Yeah, I think the shipped transaction here would be the transaction that would occur that would mimic that. And yeah, if they're logged in and they do the issue stock, this report should pretty much give you exactly when it was sent out, who sent it out, and those different details. If you do need it in a different format, we do custom reports. So if you needed to remove columns or add columns or see the data in a different way, we can change that or alter that.
More than a login, Zachary, I'd be more interested if the unique identifier for each picker would all that. So when you add a new order picked, you just put in your ID.
Yeah, the pick transaction would equate to the, oops, they're gone again.
Yeah, I think Zachary, what they want some comfort around the order picking process. So if there are 2 people, he mentioned the manual process today, but if 2 people had 2 mobile phones or 2 scanning devices, basically they want confirmation that each person would have a unique identifier, and once they pick an order and update, whether they scan the barcode or enter the quantity manually, if the system would show that trail of that person picking the order.
Yes, that's what would be logged here. Like I said, as the transactions happen in the system, any stock transaction, so if they consume the stock and send it out here, or if they do the package, package tracking, the packing, as you mentioned earlier, those would show up here in this log, and that would be associated with their user ID when they were logged in.
Okay. So Kirk, did I get that question, your question correctly, and did you get the answer?
What?
Yeah.
I think it was Kirk asking. I'm not sure.
Bertino.
Bertino, okay. So did that answer that question, Bertino?
Yeah, for the most part,
And at the
yes.
same point, you need something similar for customer service. Whoever converts the invoice,
We'll have that
you
known.
need to say that I was the one who converted your invoice.
Right.
You understand?
Yes.
For the purpose of the report, yeah, that's what it's supposed to be.
Yeah, that's for the purpose of the reporting. Yes.
Yeah, that's audit trail, which is
So you
capture
want,
these that
if you ever wanted the information about how many orders were turned by this customer care agent compared to this one or whatever, you'd have it, yes.
All right, we have another question from a sales rep.
Yes, I just want to talk about the back orders. If I want to go there and take an order for an item that is overstock, or the overstock.
Sorry, are you guys hearing?
Not really. Very quiet.
Not really, no.
Okay, I was asking about back orders. If I take an order for item that may be out of stock at a time, would the system keep that order until the items come back in stock and probably prompt you, because some of the items we have a co-distribution arrangement. So some of the items they may have gotten from another supplier. So would we have an option to go in and delete that? It prompts you to say there's a back order for this person. And would we have an option to go in and change the quantity or delete its complete order? Delete the order. Yes, or submit that back order.
We do have a back orders module in the system. The way it currently works is if you try to complete an order that does not have all the available stock, or can only partially complete an order, by default, we generate a back order for that, for the remainder. We don't currently have a notification for items not in stock. If that's something you wanted, when you create the order in the system, we could easily do that. Just show a little prompt saying that the items are not currently available or something like that. It really comes down to, how you want your process flow to work. So, we can send those notifications if you'd like them. And it's really just one of those things. We need to document all these little items and figure out exactly, what we're looking for at each step and how your process flow needs to work there.
Is there a way to set the parameter on when it's back ordered? Like, sure, you don't want to go down to 0, so maybe 3 or 4 items.
By default, it's only if the item was not shipped on that order.
Or you get several orders coming in at the same time. So instead of having someone submit an order that they think they're going to get, you set the back order notice to come out maybe at 2.
Yeah, I could do a low stock notification.
Orders coming in, and then you have someone expecting an order, thinking it's there when the previous person who ordered it got it.
Okay.
It should, but say you sent in an order right as you sent in an order, right? At the same time, and there's 10 left, and you put in for 15, and you put in for 10, right? Now, your 15 may go to 620. Your 15 may go out, but hers is going to be backward, but she wouldn't know that because you put it in at the same time. So it's highly unlikely, but if you put the
But does the order phase, are you aware of the actual invention?
No, because it's not a two-way system, it's a one-way system, so the information is coming this way. But he said you could flag it backwards.
That's what you always say. That the facility is there for that.
All right, let's bring it back then.
Yeah.
Let's bring it back then. There's
Another question.
I think there's another question or comment.
Yes, right. I would like to find out if his system allows for real-time inventory updates. So if I go on the system now, what I'm seeing while I'm on the road with a customer, what I'm seeing, would that be current stock that is available, real-time, real-time inventory? Is that a part of the capabilities?
Very good question.
He's not there.
Hello?
Hello?
Zachary, did you hear that question?
No, I couldn't hear it. There were too many people talking at once.
Is there an opportunity or is there an option for real-time inventory feeds?
The entire system's real time. So as soon as a transaction posts, that's the exact number. On the mobile device, we refresh the local cache of the inventory every time a transaction's run. So if you run a transaction, it will run a quick check to the server and see if there's been any changes since the last time. So it's pretty much live.
Okay. All right, and we're coming up on the time that we have to wrap up now, so I think we'll just take our last few questions.
So I have one more question as well. The inventory is a bit tricky because there are times when you have inventory that is there but is not available for sale. It can seem as though you can look on the system and say 20, but 15 of that is to be written off and it's still there. So we don't want them to feel as though some inventory is there. We don't have a location currently, right now, me and Mr. Garner spoke about it.
You have to quarantine that and make, if it's quarantined,
Our system does support what's called a hold location. So if the inventory is not available, you could put it into a, pending location or something like that and mark it as a hold. What that does is that doesn't allow any of the system to consume that stock. It can only be moved in and out of that location or received into that location. We also have what's called the hold status for inventory, where you can mark inventory as not available. That can be used if it's damaged, if it's, you're not sure exactly where it is at this moment, things like that. And we also have, different methods of calculating the available inventory. So we can say, we can run checks against how much stock is committed to an order as well. So if we have, 500 units committed and we only have 501 units available, maybe that's the way we would want to, do some of our calculations on the mobile side in terms of showing the low stock notices and such. So if I jump over to the inventory screen, I can show you a bit of that, the different calculations we have. Oops, wrong one. You can see here on the right, we have the different statuses for available, in stock, on order, on hold, and committed. So that basically shows you, what your numbers are at the moment. The available column is a calculation of in stock versus committed versus on hold, basically.
So that's what's not on quarantine.
You could use the on hold to put it on quarantine.
You can put it on hold.
So it would. So the on hold would decrement the available
quantity available.
And that's just done from this screen here. So now you can see I marked that lot of 100 units as a hold. So if someone came into the system and tried to create an order for that, it would show up as a zero quantity, and it would wind up generating a back order.
Okay. All right. We have another question over here.
Sure.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Receipts.
Receipts. Yes, thank you. Hi. I need to find out if this platform, if it can facilitate receipts.
Receipts from customer, which are payments.
Right.
Yeah, that's
Can it? For example, if I needed to enter a check information for a particular customer.
We primarily offload the accounting, and like check information and such over to the accounting packages. We don't really handle much of that in our system. As far as, confirming the receipt, that can be done through the package tracking module once we get that finished up. And that'll confirm that it was delivered. As far as any UPS packages or things like that, we don't really have a way to handle, pulling that it's been delivered notification back into our system. You'd have to use the exact tracking number to pull that.
Yeah, I think she was more interested in the payment side, tracking, being able to enter payments. But I guess you're saying that anything accounting related is passed over to the accounting system.
We generally offload all that information onto the accounting package, since we don't have a general ledger or any of that in our system. So
I don't think it's so much of the general ledger transaction, but more or less at least you go to a customer and they give you a check against their account. Is there any way to capture that information to say a payment was made and it can be, let's say, applied in the back office?
Well, generally, the way we handle that is we actually, in our Sage 50 interface, we check Sage to see if an invoice has been paid or if a payment or if a bill has been paid or things like that. So we actually look to the accounting package to pull that information back out when it's available. We don't necessarily, have a way to enter that directly in. You can mark an invoice directly as paid if the field's enabled, but there's no real way to put in the details. We could always put in some of that information if you needed it. We could reappropriate one of these fields. Our system is very customizable here, but by default, we really don't have a field for it. So.
Okay, so just a follow-up. Fair enough. Just a follow-up then. So when the mobile salesperson is out on the field, they are, I didn't see that earlier, maybe I missed it, but are they able to pull up the customer account and see outstanding invoices that was shown? I may have missed it.
Yeah, so if we go over to the orders area and just look at the shipping orders here. So this will show you the status of all the orders on that line.
Right.
You can see we have one that's completed, one that's open, one that's black.
So it's now completed. An invoice is generated. You go back to the customer next week. Will it show that this invoice has not been paid?
We could add that to the field, or we could add that to the screen here to show the invoice information. Currently, it's not displayed though.
Okay.
So right now, it only shows the basic information here, but if you wanted an invoice paid field to be added, we could do that.
Okay. No, not much information on customer, so they'll have to write that to pull it from the back end. So basically, all the various information, let's say on customer, on the status of an invoice, if we wanted to push that out to the and make it available to the salespersons, those would have to be customization, and we indicate what are the things that we want them to see.
Yeah, so if you just need to indicate to me what information you wanted to see on the order screen here, and I could add those fields in there. It's a pretty straightforward process. Not too involved to add additional fields onto here. So.
Okay. All right. You good?
One question. All right. My question is, from a customer service standpoint, right? If a rep sends in an order, would my login be able to edit that order? Like change quantities, change items?
It depends on how the permissions are set up. The system has a permission system similar to Windows with group policy and things like that. So you can control exactly which users and which groups can do what actions. So we have a list of about 300 or so securities in here, and you have fine-grained control over what any group could do, and you can assign different users, different groups to give them different permissions. So if you wanted to give the persons in the field the ability to manipulate stock, you could. Although at the same time, if you didn't want to give them that capability, you could remove that on the inventory screen here. So receive stock, wherever that's at. Receive transit slip, and there's a stock operation one as well.
Okay.
This brings us to another interesting question.
All right. Okay.
Now, if you send in an order as a salesman and it is edited in-house, will I be
notified? Are there notifications attached to that, Zachary, where if the order is submitted and modified internal, then there can be a notification sent back, or that has to be customized as well?
The notification system does a few different things. So we can track pretty much any action on our standard order screens here. So if you click save, I can trigger a purchase order save action and send out an email for that. Pretty much any screen that looks like this, I can do that for. We don't really have them in place currently for any stock operations, but it is one of those things. It is a very generic feature that we developed, so we can easily add additional statuses and customize that and add other alerts if you need them.
So the notification is a separate module?
Yes. The notification is its own separate module, and that can be triggered in any way we need to send out alerts.
Okay, but you do already have some predefined alerts in there.
Yes, we have a number of predefined ones for shipping orders been created, things like that. And then from there, it just needs to be customized to add in any specific alerts or any specific text that you want to see on your system.
And for the notification module, let's say can the client actually define their own set of notifications, who must be notified, what event to be notified on? Can they do it, or do they come back to you for those kind of changes?
Currently, there's no user interface for it. It's all done on the database. At some point, we would like to add the module, though, so that you can come in and define your own and change them as needed.
Okay. All right. I don't know if we can take probably one more question or comment if anybody has anything.
Yeah, well, let me take that opportunity.
All right.
So, Zachary, I'd like you to talk me through the chronology of events as it relates to management of the inventory. So, an order is about to be placed to a supplier to buy stock. Where does that happen? Does it happen in Inventory Pro? Does it happen in the back office software? How does that? Just talk me through that, because there are vendors involved, there are item involved, there are vendor item numbers involved, there are the client item numbers involved. Just take me through that process. You could talk.
Yeah, we have an entire module for that, the purchase order module here. So with this, you can define a supplier's catalog, which is a mapping of your suppliers and what their specific item numbers are. So you can map the external numbers to your internal numbers. So that can be done from this screen. You can also define different package types, different units of measure, lead times, things like that. And you can have different pricing on a per vendor or supplier basis. We also have a full suppliers list in here as well, so you can define different suppliers, their information, similar to the customer screen. We also have a restocking module, and this will look at your active inventory and look at your different available stock numbers based on the reorder levels. So you can define, when things need to be reordered and automatically generate those purchase orders through the system. And then, coming back to the main purchase order screen here, I'll run through a quick one here. Just let me put in a little bit of test data for us. Did I not click save? No, I should be able to use that. Oh, I know what that is. Hang on, need to add two of them. Huh, that's weird. Okay. I will definitely need to take a look at this testing system later in the day here, because this is not behaving properly. But normally what you'd be able to do is select the supplier, and I'll just jump over to another test site so I can show you that. I do apologize. Generally, when we set up these test sites, they get all the latest updates. Looks like yours is missing a couple, though. Okay, so now we can just select the warehouse it's going to. So I'll just select this Acme Medical one. You can also specify who the buyer is, or you can have that automatically tracked. And again, this has a whole approvals module tied into it as well if you wanted to implement anything like that. Okay, so now we've created the purchase order, number 8. And if we jump over, we can just add lines to the order. Unfortunately, this warehouse doesn't have anything turned on really, so we'll just use that special item. And the process is very similar to processing a shipping order. At this point, we can receive this order, and that takes us over to another similar screen here where it shows the different item details, what location we want to put it into, attributes like that. And at this point, we can receive that stock into the inventory.
All right. Paul, 1 second there, Zachary. So you are receiving everything that has been done so far inherently resides in the Inventory Pro application, correct?
Yes. Most of the way we generally interface with other applications is we have most of the data entered into our system, and then we propagate that out to the other accounting packages or other software integrations or things.
Okay, so this.
So yeah, most of it will happen here. Like I said earlier, though, if we needed to do a two-way interface and pull that information back out of Sage 300, that is something we could look into.
It would definitely make sense to have a two-way interface because, for example, you're receiving here. When you receive here, Sage has to also be updated to say we have received stock, because when that order is generated, for example, you would want both systems to be basically saying the same thing. Because reporting, significant number of reports or level of reporting comes out of the Sage report writer. So if the information is not synced, then you will of course have incorrect information being put forward on reports.
Understood.
So the impression I'm getting, it's the first time I'm actually seeing Inventory Pro. So most of us are all of us in here. So you can understand the level of questions that you're getting.
Oh, no problem. We're used to dealing with that on a regular basis. So.
I can imagine. So between Sage and Inventory Pro, they are competing features as well as complementary features. That's what I'm getting, because Inventory Pro seems to be an entire system on its own that doesn't necessarily need to be interfaced with anything else. That's correct? Okay. Okay. I understand now.
Yep. All right. Candice? Candice, you here?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right. All right. Yeah. All right. So we're about at that time. Yeah, I think we got a good handful here today. I think we got a very fair understanding and a very comprehensive look at the system. It's been very informative. So I think we can follow up a little later on and do a recap of what we have here. Yeah, I think we'll do the recap before any other breakout sessions or anything. We look at that first. Right, so I want to thank you guys again. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
The MDS team says thanks.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right.
All right, so we catch up later. Thanks again, guys.
Have a good weekend.
Bye.
Have a good one.
All right, guys. So let's close that browser just before we leave and leave.